This is Angela Blueskies, and I am so delighted to be with you again today and to share another beautiful, inspiring voice um, that will hopefully provide a lot of support through these crazy times that we're living in right now. And the person that I am going to share with you today is somebody that I have immense respect for. Caryn Mirriam-Goldberg was my grad school advisor at Goddard College. And she has done so many amazing things in terms of creativity and bringing people to really share their own voices with the world, as well as sharing her own amazing voice with us. She is Kansas Poet Laureate Emeritus. She's written 24 books of poetry, fiction, and memoir. And she was faculty at Goddard College for over 20 years before following her own heart and leaving academia to follow her own creative pursuits. In addition to that, she is a cancer survivor and for a long time has grappled with life's deeper questions, such as how to live with meaning, how to be present, and the role of creativity in healing and transformation. And Caryn is truly one of the most inspiring people that I have ever had the privilege of working with in my life. So thank you
Oh,
so much for
thank you so
taking
much.
this time.
Thank you so much, Angela. And it's a pleasure to be with you. And I think about your graduate work often and what you taught me about pilgrimage. And the pilgrimage is that we are being called on all the time, especially now.
Especially now. And I thank you for supporting me so beautifully in digging deep into what that meant for me and creating a voice for that work in the world where it hadn't been before. Um, so I'm wondering if in opening our conversation, you might be willing to read an excerpt of your work to inspire us.
I would love to read something, and thank you so much for asking. I have a forthcoming book called How Time Moves, New and Selected Poems. It's kind of my mothership of poetry books because it's most of my poems from 6 books and a new book about how time moves. And who knew when I was working on this that we would be entering a time when time is moving so differently. So this is kind of the invocation to the book, and it's called Inscription. How does the world tell our story? A line of one cloud overlaps another, an airplane gone but for its tail, a first star barely inscribed on evening before the page turns dark. What does the first reddening leaf sing down its veins to loosen the grip of twig from branch into the rhythm of August ending? In the middle of a life, what tells us to turn quickly from the oncoming car or edge of a nightmare before dropping down to safety again? What speaks through us at the cusp of winter, the heavy hands of the next day's humidity, or the last magnolia bud not ruined by last night's frost, knocked off the tree by a speeding squirrel? Look away from the words composing the mind into the blank sky, not quite gray, not quite blue, that dissolves into the wind of the world.
Thank you so much. That's really beautiful. And I am so excited to hear about your new book. Amazing. And so you consider yourself a transformative language artist, not not just writing for writing's sake, but writing for transformation's sake. Can you share a little bit about what that means for you?
Yes, I became a writer during a time in my life when I was just a young teenager and everything was falling apart in my family and I needed words. And prior to that, I just drew all the time. I was more of a visual artist. Like you, I was just born hardwired to make stuff. And I think like most of us in some way. And I found that the combination of writing, using words to try to discern what is really happening both beyond my thinking about it, and having good witnesses became so important. It became my lifeline when I was growing up. And I had some really wonderful witnesses. And then as time went on, I found a lot of other people had similar lifelines. So I developed the first transformative language arts program in the country at Goddard College over 20 years ago, and now there's the TLA network that people may want to look at, which offers all kinds of things in this vein. But in a nutshell, it's writing, storytelling, singing and songwriting, theater, spoken word arts, and all kinds of collaborative arts that help lift us toward better understanding who we are individually and who we are together, what we're here to do, how we should live.
Mm. Such important questions to be asking in a crazy time like we are living through right now. And
Mm-hmm.
in recent weeks, as the coronavirus has literally transformed our daily rhythms all around the world, I've seen more and more creative people sharing their work, not only poetry, but music and inspirational speaking and dancing, including these amazing online dance jams of 3,000 people. And of course,
Wow.
visual arts too. And it
Mm-hmm.
really highlights the importance of creative expression during challenging times. Um, and it seems almost like that's exactly the work of transformative language arts and transformative arts of all kinds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for someone,
Absolutely. I saw something the other day that it's really the arts that get you through when you're dwelling in uncertainty, when you're between worlds, between the world we were in and the new one that's we're finding our way to.
yeah. So for someone who is sitting at home in the midst of all of this and who doesn't already have a creative practice of some kind, um, if someone is wanting to explore writing during this time of retreat, what is a good way for them to begin that?
I think a really good way to begin is first just finding and making some space and spaciousness around yourself. It might be that you're in a chair. I'm in kind of this um, rescued from the curb, rocking chair we found. But a comfortable place where you have a little room and a little peace, um, a moment to take a few deep breaths, open your eyes, look around outside. Sometimes if you're the meditating sort or you want to get started, just having a minute or few minutes of your eyes closed and just breathing and checking in with yourself is a great way to kind of set the ground before you start writing, and then start writing. And when I first started teaching writing, I first taught at the University of Kansas, English 101 essay writing. I would tell my students, pay attention, don't judge, keep your hand moving.
Mm.
And the same is still true, that if you can just enter into it in a non-judgmental place, from a non-judgmental place, where you're seeing what it is you have to say to yourself, that's a good way to get started. There's also tons of resources out there. And in the bio link, I'm happy to share some, including some books and guides people can look at, sometimes taking an online class or signing up for something. I'm about to start offering a writing prompt today in
Oh, great.
April. That there's an optional pen pal matching service, and that's based on a donation basis, even for free if times are tough. So there's wonderful, wonderful ways to just find some sources to support you. And from there, finding some others you know who are creating, even if it's parallel play. Maybe you have a friend who's a dancer and another one who's learning new piano pieces, and you just kind of check in with each other and encourage each other. I could probably talk for hours about ways to get started and keep going, but I'll just kind of leave it at that for some introductory ideas.
I love it. You know, for me, when I walked the Camino de Santiago pilgrimage in 2004,
Mm-hmm.
I carried a heavy leather bound journal with me so that I would do some writing. And after some time, it just all got too intense and I didn't keep up in the way that I had hoped I would. But when I finished that pilgrimage, writing still kept a really central place in my life, but I was very private about it. I didn't want anybody to read anything I'd
Mm-hmm.
written. and would have probably excommunicated any friend that picked it up and actually read anything at the time. And I felt so defensive about it and so private. Um, and a friend of mine who was a writer said, "You know, there's this book called The Artist's Way." And I bought it, and I went from being a totally closeted writer to applying to Goddard in a 3-month period. And
Oh, wow.
then I began my journey of taking it more seriously. And so, have you ever worked with that, or worked with
Yeah.
people?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one guide that can be incredibly helpful for people. And there's tons of other great books out there. Dina Metzger's Writing for Your Life, John Lee's Writing from the Body, Natalie Goldberg's books about the writing process, Anne Lamott's books, her book Bird by Bird. But I also caution people to use what works for them.
Mm-hmm.
The Artist Way has wonderful prompts in it, but Julia Cameron also talks about morning pages.
Mm-hmm.
And I caution people against doing that at this point. If you're waking up like me, to paraphrase Rumi, empty and scared a lot of mornings, and the first thing you do is grab a pad and just start writing everything that's in you, you can actually you can roll your tires around more and more and more in the mud and sink yourself in more. And sometimes having a prompt that helps tilt you another direction can be incredibly helpful. Only you can know what you actually need at the moment, but there has been a lot of very in-depth qualitative and quantitative studies on the therapeutic value of writing, how writing with a tilt toward health and wholeness can help you, and how sometimes just kind of spilling it out on the page extensively can work against you. So it's I think this time, and I know this sounds like such a cliche, this time more than other times, I think we're really being called to listen to what is it I need to do, what's the best way for me to access my own creativity, my curiosity, my tenderness toward myself and others, so that I can see what I need to say and speak in this new and sometimes very scary place.
Brilliant insight there, and I appreciate that. Um, I know recently for myself, like as I've been slowly finding my way out of the fog of long-term healing from a traumatic brain injury, I started showing up on the page again. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, if I try to make myself do it at any certain time of the day, I resent it. Like I don't want another assignment. But
Mm-hmm.
if I really give myself the space to sit until something wants to emerge, then it feels really nourishing. And like it's like meditation and prayer for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
to just drop in deeper so that I can hear something that is better
Mm-hmm.
than my own mental noise, which I hear enough of every day anyway.
Yeah, I think we all do. And it's kind of a funny balance between aiming yourself toward what you're called to do, what you're called to say on the page, and also really listening to yourself and finding that guidance from there. Pema Chodron, who I love, has a great quote, which I don't remember exactly, but it's something to the effect of, only you can know what's true for you. And it might be that a certain time of the day works for somebody, or just trying something like I'm doing with my meditation practice. I have this Thich Nhat Hanh bell app that rings on my computer once an hour. Sometimes I meditate for 10 minutes. Sometimes I just take a few breaths. But it interrupts that sense of urgency when I'm working and feeling like, it's a matter of life or death if I get this website updated or something
Yeah.
else, and helps me return to my body and to um, opening my eyes and feeling the wind, coming in the cracks of the house, and seeing the sky changing and checking in where I am. And for some people, perhaps having something like that, where you can even set a timer to just interrupt you 2 or 3 times during the day, and then you pick up a journal and just write a paragraph. That could be a great exercise and way to return to yourself more.
I love it. So, as your work has been centered around the role of creativity and healing and transformation, I'm curious to know a little bit more about your own journey of healing as a two-time cancer survivor and the role of writing and other creative expression for you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for asking. My own writing journey really started to save my own life. I was in a very difficult and dysfunctional, doesn't even begin to name it, somewhat dangerous situation in my home when I was a teenager. I had a very abusive father and all kinds of other issues. And writing gave me a place to come to the page and sort out what was real and what was being pushed on me. And I know that it's a cliche to use the term gaslighting, but hey, I was living in Gaslight Village back then. And so it gave me a sense of hope. What I kept turning to is the idea of I'm more curious than I am depressed at the moment. Like, what will happen in 10 years, 15 years if I hang on and keep going? And it also gave me a way to feel like I was creating something of meaning, even if I was writing pretty sappy poems that, wouldn't really go beyond my teenage years. Just making something can help you feel so much more alive. And there's a lot of other things that writing did for me, and I'm happy to even share some essays I've written about that in more depth. But I've returned to writing as a way to reconnect with the sources around me, with, where I find my strength and courage and guidance. Even talking to you now, I just noticed a whole flock of blackbirds flew by. And writing is a way that for me to tune into what's happening around me, get it on the page, and start to see where I am even more. I used writing quite a bit during my first bout of cancer, and that was with breast cancer. And Thich Nhat Hanh Bell, I forgot to shut that.
Mindful minute.
Mindful minute, so we all take a breath. Okay. And I wrote quite a bit. I also have the BRCA genetic mutation, and I had a journey of chemo and a lot of surgeries. And out of that, I created a collection of poems called Reading the Body, which will be largely reprinted in How Time Moves. And I also wrote a memoir called The Sky Begins at My Feet, or The Sky Begins at Your Feet. Should remember my pronouns. And it was a memoir on cancer community and coming home to the body. And I wrote all the way through chemo, and I would hand my doctor what I wrote each time. And with my permission, it was part of my medical file. Nurses could read it and so on. I was writing about weird dreams I was having and moments that fear storms struck, and moments everything almost seemed normal. And then, there's always the and then if you're going through a lot of intensive treatment. It helped me to kind of find my way forward and open my heart more to some of what I was learning, and I'm still learning. We're aging, we're changing, and self-care is an inside job that really turns from part-time to full-time as time goes on and on. My second cancer was last summer, and I had an ocular melanoma, which is why any of you viewers might think I'm winking at Angela here. And I am winking at her because she is cute. She's married. Anyway, but having a very rare cancer in my eye was a total shock, and I'm just starting to write about that. But my treatment was so intensive in a short period of time that I was just kind of hanging on, getting through. And I think when you go through a big health challenge, sometimes you can write right in the moment, sometimes later on. I was walking with a fellow poet today, a wonderful woman named Judy Reutman, who's also our local Zen master. And we were talking about how neither one of us has been able to write much since this, Pandora's box of the pandemic has opened up. Then again, it's only been about 2 weeks that things have been so intense for most of us. And in time that will come. So I guess from my own journey, I would say writing can be a way for you to map out what you truly believe and where you're truly led to go. My last examples, that Saturday, instead of in person leading a 4-hour writing retreat for people with serious illness at a wonderful place called Turning Point in Kansas City, I'm going to do the retreat on Zoom. And we have about 20 people coming. I've never done a writing retreat that big on Zoom. We'll see what happens. But when I meet with those people, we will talk about what often comes up, which is that when you're living with serious illness or any serious, very big, hard challenge in your life, sometimes you can feel like your voice has just vanished from you, as if some strange entity has reached down your throat and taken it. And particularly with medical challenges, it's almost like we're put on a treadmill. This is where you're going, and then this is where, and this is where. Maybe conveyor belt's the best way to say it. You're put on a conveyor belt. And it's often hard to get to that place of true informed consent and really looking at what is happening to you and what is happening in you, and how do you connect with who you truly are at this moment? Because we can use these times to turn even more into who we always were. And from there, how do you make the choices that are best for you? Writing and making art through such passages, and also making art through such passages in community where we can be well witnessed, is such an essential way to return to ourselves, to return to our own innate and best decision making and clarity about where life is taking us right now.
Thank you so much. I feel inspired after I finish talking to you to go and get out my own journal and do some
Good.
writing. I love it. So as we come to the end of our time together, I would love it if you could share another excerpt of your writing with us, something that might inspire listeners during these challenging times.
Oh, I would love to share something. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to this poem because I think it might speak to some of our viewers at this moment. Do we have enough in the house? Do we have what we need? Do we have enough information? Well, usually too much information. Are we enough to get through this moment? What you need is here. In the last buzz of bees and cicadas, everyone naps. Dogs and humans, snakes in the sunny field, Osage orange leaves dreaming down. A bird in the tree is worth more than its weight in song, while wind sheds another layer of the old year so the new one can pour into us. I wake and start to hum, the afternoon steady as limestone, also rolling through time. Old wishes for worth or proof, ashes sparked upward from a dying fire, dissolve. The new yearnings have yet to land in the absence of hunger. When I try to imagine what to prepare for, I can only hear the yawn of. I can only see a spider working something out of nothing, an airplane miles above, insect stories below, ferrying the past out of its confines to the next landing. Something beyond names or wishes sings to the beauty that passes bird to power line to horizon. The possibility right now as ever for love to join the chorus.
Mm.
Yeah.
Will you read that last bit again, that last line?
Something beyond names or wishes sings to the beauty that passes bird to power line to horizon. The possibility right now as ever for love to join the chorus.
For love to join the chorus. I love it. So beautiful. It's
Oh,
such an
thank you so
honor.
much.
It's such an
Oh,
honor
well,
to spend this time with you.
it's an honor to get to see you, and thank you for what you are doing to put these stories and just new ways to tilt our thinking and open our hearts in this time.
Thank you. It's an inspirational gift for me just to be able to have conversations with people who I have such immense respect and appreciation for. And is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners as resources, and where they might be able to find you and
Mhm.
connect with their own voices through some of what you're offering?
Well, thank you so much. As a post-institutional woman who's left a 33-year career teaching at colleges, I work with people in communities and individually, and I also work with businesses and groups. And I offer writing coaching as well as right livelihood coaching, how to make a living doing what you love. I'm very excited to be offering an online class starting April 12th called Vision and Revision for people who want to do a deep poetry immersion.
Mm.
And generally, people can simply go to Mirriam-Goldberg.com. Mirriam has two R's in it. You can probably spell it wrong and still find me. And I love to connect with people who feel so moved to reach out to me.
So it'll be a pleasure for people to find your beautiful work, to read your poetry, and to find your books, and also to check out your classes and the work that
Mhm.
you're offering to help people really embrace their own creative soul and voice in a new way. Thank you so much for the beauty that you bring to this world, and thank you for taking this time with us today.
And thank you so much to the beauty you are and continue to embody.
Thank you.
Thanks.